In the quiet corners of history, we find individuals whose lives inspire us to strive for goodness and truth. One such individual is Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. Her life, as chronicled in the sacred scriptures, paints a picture of a woman of profound virtue. These virtues aren't just religious ideals. They are practical qualities that, when cultivated, can greatly enhance our daily lives. The first virtue we associate with Mary is humility. In a world where self-promotion is often celebrated, Mary's humility stands as a shining beacon, reminding us of the power of gentleness and meekness. She accepted her divine role not with pride but with humble acceptance, setting an example for us all. Next, we consider obedience. Mary's obedience to God was absolute. She accepted God's will for her life without question, even when it meant facing immense challenges. This obedience sprang not from fear, but from love and trust in God's plan. Purity, another virtue exemplified by Mary, is often misunderstood in our modern world. It's not about a set of rules or restrictions, but rather a state of heart and mind that seeks truth, goodness, and love in all things. Then we have faith. Mary's faith was unshakable. Even in the face of immense sorrow and uncertainty, her faith in God remained steadfast. This faith was not passive, it was active, courageous, and resilient. Finally, we come to charity. Mary's life was a testament to love and compassion. Whether it was her visit to Elizabeth or her care for Jesus, Mary's actions were always guided by selfless love. These virtues, humility, obedience, purity, faith, and charity, form the foundation of Mary's character. They are qualities that transcend religious boundaries, resonating with individuals of all walks of life. As we delve deeper into these virtues, we'll discover how to emulate Mary's virtues in our own lives. We will explore practical ways to cultivate these virtues in our daily lives, drawing inspiration from Mary's extraordinary example. Remember, it's not about achieving perfection, but about striving to become better versions of ourselves. Stay tuned as we embark on this journey of discovery and transformation. We hope you'll join us in this exploration of Mary's virtues and their powerful impact on our lives. Scene script. Let's embark on this journey by exploring the virtues of humility and obedience as exemplified by Mary. Mary's humility is most evident in the way she accepted God's will for her life. When the angel Gabriel appeared to her, announcing that she would conceive the Son of God, she didn't question or argue. She didn't ask why she, a simple young woman, was chosen for such an extraordinary task. Instead, she replied with a humble, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." This is a profound example of humility, and it sets a standard for us to aspire to. In our daily lives, we can practice this virtue by being open to life situations, accepting them with grace. We often have plans and expectations about how our lives should unfold. But life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? Just like Mary, we can choose to respond with humility, embracing life's surprises instead of resisting them. Consider a situation where you're passed over for a promotion at work. It's easy to react with anger or resentment, but practicing humility means accepting the situation and using it as an opportunity for growth. It's about acknowledging that we don't always have all the answers, and that's okay. Mary's obedience is another virtue that shines brightly in her life. Her obedience wasn't blind or unquestioning. It was rooted in her deep faith in God. She trusted that God's plan for her life was the best one, even if it was difficult and uncertain. Practicing obedience in our daily lives doesn't mean blindly following orders. It means seeking to understand the wisdom behind the rules and guidelines we're given, and following them because we believe they're for our good. Take, for instance, the commandment to love our neighbors as ourselves. This isn't always easy, especially when our neighbors are difficult to get along with. Yet, we're called to obey this commandment, not because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do. In the words of Mother Teresa, "If you judge people, you have no time to love them." This quote reminds us that obedience often requires us to put aside our personal feelings and preferences for the sake of doing what's right. So, how can we cultivate these virtues of humility and obedience in our lives? It starts with a willingness to learn and grow. We can pray for these virtues, asking God to help us become more like Mary in our humility and obedience. We can also practice these virtues in our daily interactions, choosing to respond with humility and obedience even when it's challenging. In the face of life's challenges, let us remember Mary's humility and obedience and strive to incorporate these virtues in our daily routines. Now let's turn our attention to Mary's unshakable faith and trust in God. This is a virtue that is often tested in our lives, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the perfect example of unwavering faith. Imagine, if you will, the Annunciation, when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary. She was a young woman betrothed to Joseph, and suddenly she was told she would bear the Son of God. The uncertainty of this situation would have shaken anyone to their core. Yet Mary responded with faith, saying, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word." Consider the strength of faith and trust it took for Mary to say those words. She had no idea how the world would react, how Joseph would react, or what this would mean for her future. Yet she trusted God completely, showing an unshakable faith that we can all aspire to. Fast forward to the crucifixion. As she stood at the foot of the cross, watching her son suffer and die, her faith was tested again. But even in this darkest of hours, Mary's faith did not waver. She remained steadfast and trusting at the side of Jesus, showing us the depth of her faith and trust in God's plan. So, how can we strengthen our faith and trust in God following Mary's example? First, we need to understand that faith is not just a feeling, but a choice. We choose to trust in God, even when things don't make sense, just as Mary did. Second, it's essential to immerse ourselves in God's Word. Reading the Bible, understanding His promises and knowing His character helps us to trust Him more. When you know someone well, it's easier to trust them, right? The same goes for our relationship with God. Third, prayer is vital. It's through prayer that we communicate with God, build our relationship with Him, and express our trust in Him. Mary's life was a continuous prayer, always connected to God, always trusting in His will. Lastly, we can seek the intercession of Mary. As our Heavenly Mother, she understands our struggles and can help us to trust in God's plan for our lives. Remember, faith is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Life will throw curveballs, and there will be times when our faith is tested, just like Mary's was. But by choosing faith, immersing ourselves in God's Word, praying and seeking Mary's intercession, we can strengthen our trust in God. May Mary's unwavering faith inspire us to trust in the divine plan, even when the path seems unclear. Moving forward, we encounter the virtues of charity and compassion deeply ingrained in Mary's life. These virtues were not merely passive qualities, they were active, driving forces in her life, inspiring her to reach out to others in their time of need. Consider the story of Mary's visit to Elizabeth. Upon hearing that her elderly cousin was expecting a child, Mary, herself pregnant, undertook a long and arduous journey to be by Elizabeth's side. She didn't hesitate or consider her own comfort. Instead, she was moved by love and compassion, eager to provide support and companionship when it was most needed. This story provides us with a beautiful example of charity and compassion in action. It's not about grand gestures or elaborate donations, but simple acts of love and kindness. It's about seeing a need in others and responding to it with empathy and generosity, much like Mary did. So how can we imitate this in our own lives? How can we infuse our days with more acts of charity and compassion? Well, it starts with a shift in perspective. It begins by looking beyond ourselves and our immediate circle and seeing the broader humanity that surrounds us. For instance, you could make a point to get to know your neighbor. Perhaps they're elderly and could use some help with groceries or yard work. Or maybe they're new to the area and could use a friendly face. Offering your help, your time, your company, these are acts of charity and compassion. You could also volunteer your time to a local charity or community group. Whether it's serving meals at a soup kitchen, tutoring children after school, or visiting patients in a hospital, there are countless ways to make a positive impact. And let's not forget about the power of kindness in our everyday interactions. A kind word, a patient ear, a smile. These might seem like small things, but to someone who's having a tough day, they can mean the world. Charity and compassion are also about forgiveness. It's about letting go of grudges and resentment and choosing to love instead. This can be a difficult task, but remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making the effort, about striving to be more like Mary day by day. And finally, let's remember to extend this charity and compassion to ourselves as well. It's all too easy to be our own harshest critic. So let's be kind to ourselves. Let's forgive ourselves when we fall short. And let's celebrate our efforts to grow and improve. As Mother Teresa once said, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And that, in essence, is what charity and compassion are all about. Through acts of charity and compassion, we can bring a bit of Mary's love into our world. So let's strive to do just that. Let's strive to love more, to care more, to be more like Mary in our everyday lives. Lastly, we turn to the virtue of prayer and meditation, a cornerstone of Mary's life. This practice, as depicted in the Gospel of Luke, shows us that Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. This was not just a one-time occurrence, but a habit that she cultivated throughout her life. In a world that constantly bombards us with noise and information, we can learn from Mary's example and seek out moments of quiet reflection. These moments are not about escaping from reality, but about diving deep into it, pondering the events of our lives and seeking wisdom and understanding. Prayer and meditation are not just about asking for things, but about developing a relationship with our Creator. It's about opening our hearts and minds to His presence and His guidance. It's about listening, as Mary did, to the still small voice that whispers in the depths of our hearts. In the Catholic tradition, there are several Marian prayers, like the Rosary, that we can use as a guide. The Rosary in particular invites us to meditate on the life of Jesus through the eyes of Mary. It's not just a repetition of words, but a journey into the heart of the Gospel where we can encounter Jesus in a personal and profound way. Meditative prayer is not about emptying our minds, but about filling them with the truth of God's Word. It's about letting the stories of the Bible take root in our hearts, allowing them to shape our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. It's about becoming like Mary, a living reflection of the Gospel. In conclusion, prayer and meditation are not optional extras, but essential elements of a vibrant spiritual life. They are the tools that God has given us to cultivate a deep and enduring relationship with Him. They are the means by which we can become more like Mary, who was not just a passive observer, but an active participant in the unfolding of God's plan. May Mary's practice of prayer and meditation inspire us to seek moments of quiet reflection in our busy lives. As we conclude this journey into the virtues of Mary, let's remember that imitation is not about perfection. Indeed, the essence of this journey lies in the striving, the reaching out, the yearning to embody the virtues that Mary so beautifully displayed. We've traversed the landscape of humility and obedience, acknowledging the immense strength it took for Mary to humbly accept God's will for her life without question. We've considered practical ways to incorporate this virtue into our daily lives, such as accepting life situations with grace and striving to follow God's commandments. We then ventured into the realm of faith and trust in God, a territory that Mary navigated with unwavering conviction. Even in the face of uncertainty and hardship, her faith never faltered. We've discussed strategies to strengthen our personal faith and trust in God's plans, encouraging us to emulate Mary's steadfastness. Our journey took us further into the heart of charity and compassion, virtues that Mary exemplified in her interactions with others. From her visit to Elizabeth, her care for Jesus, to her presence at the cross, her life was a testament of love in action. We've suggested ways to show more love and compassion in our everyday lives, reminding us that even small acts of kindness can have a profound impact. Lastly, we delved into the practice of prayer and meditation, which were integral parts of Mary's life. Just as Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart, Luke 2:19, we too can cultivate a habit of personal prayer and meditative reflection. In imitating Mary, we aren't seeking perfection, but rather an alignment of our hearts and lives to the virtues she embodies. It's about drawing closer to Jesus through the example and intercession of His mother. In our striving, we're not alone. As the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Remember, if you like this video, please share, like, comment and subscribe to this channel. For Amazon English bestsellers on similar topics, check the description box below or the comment section. Goodbye and God bless.